We're live. Hi, what's up, guys? Will back once again. This is my second time trying it. I was already halfway through the first fight, and then my phone decided it just wanted to kind of shut off completely or do something it shouldn't be doing. So this is the second time I'm trying it. So I apologise if you're in the few people that were in watching that live stream last time out. But I'm back here. So just want to say a massive thank you. Everybody that reached out, asked if I was okay when I was ill. I'm kind of getting there. I'm nearly at the end of it. Whatever it is I had, but I'm getting there very, very slowly. So just thank you for everybody that did that. If you can hit that like button, get as many thumbs up as possible, and hit that subscribe button, it would be greatly appreciated. We're on the road to 4,000 by the end of 2020. And I'm really looking forward to trying to hit that 4,000 mark, because obviously I've said this before, I never ever thought I'd get to 1,000 subs, so getting to 4,000 is pretty badass in my opinion. But yeah, just if you can do that. Coming off Fight Island, which I thought the UFC did a great job with, back in Vegas, back in the small cage. Hopefully it continues the way it did before when they were in Vegas, and it was just a lot of fun fights, big finishes, so on. This card's not the greatest, but it's not a bad way to kind of get us back into the kind of US market and then get a run of fight cards here. So much appreciated. I can see a couple of guys in the chat there, just my 2 cents and Buffo on the beat. I really do appreciate that. You guys there. I am nearly better. I'm nearly there. Like I was saying beforehand, I'm going to be doing Dana White Contender Series picks on Sunday night. I asked if you people want me to do that. I'm going to do that. So I'm going to be probably doing that Sunday night. I might have a video Saturday looking at UFC 252, but I don't see the card fully kind of finished yet, which is a bit unfortunate. I usually like that. So what's up, Michael? I can see in the chat there, brother. I'm going to get into this fight card. If you can just, like I say, smash the thumbs up like Buffo was saying, and hit the subscribe button. It'd be much appreciated and help me try and grow the channel. Bantamweight division, Chris Gutierrez against Cody Durden. And like I was saying kind of beforehand, I like what I see from Cody Durden. I think he is a really half decent fighter, and especially in coming in kind of short notice. I was looking at this fight thinking Gutierrez minus 300. I'm like, I think that's kind of high. Went and had a look, and I was like, oh geez, I don't like that line at all. I can see why it's lined there, but I'm seeing a lot of people taking the shot on Cody, and honestly, I'm not going to be one of those people taking a shot. But I think where the value is, I mean, minus what 330 or something. What Gutierrez is, I don't really like that. Even though it is a new guy coming to the UFC, he is a flyweight. His striking isn't overly great, but I do think his wrestling and his grappling's pretty good. And when you look at Gutierrez, he's more a technical striker who can chop you down with leg kicks, have some really nice combinations up top as well. But yeah, this should be... I think this is all the aspects of being a very close fight. I think the betting line's a little bit off, so you people that are taking a shot plus 275, plus 290, because you might even get a plus 300 by fight time. I don't think that's an awfully bad bet. So the one thing I did see with Durden is that he catches leg kicks. I've seen a few times he's did that, and that kind of that's something that he could do here, because we know Gutierrez is definitely going to target those legs, and that's what he does. He kind of targets the lower extremities, and he goes after it pretty big. So like I said, I don't like the short notice nature of the fight. It was supposed to be Luke Sanders in here, and that was going to be a competitive fight. But I like the fact that he's got wrestling, and I think he can get this fight to the ground. I'm going to pick Gutierrez, but I'm not... Like I said, I think the betting line's off. So if you want to take a shot on a decent dog, I think Durden's got path to victories with his wrestling. And if you can keep Gutierrez there, so that's going to kind of be interesting in that spot. On the feet, I think that Gutierrez is too technical and a bit too powerful with some of his strikes, so I think he has to get in those legs, or maybe clinch him up and try and use a lot of energy to try and get him to the ground. So I'm going to take Gutierrez via decision. When you look at Gutierrez, who he's beat as well, De Freitas, Ryan McDonald, Vince Morales. I mean, Morales was just shook in that fight. He was not firing away. Maybe it was the fact that Gutierrez was just landing leg kicks that was just demobilising him across the board there. But yeah, as to this fight, I think Cody Durden is actually probably going to be my DraftKings kind of play of the week. He's the dirt minimum, so I'm probably going to be flying in on him and maybe try and work around him off that spot. But I'm going to take Gutierrez, but I think this line's going to play... I think this fight's going to play a lot closer than what the line suggests. And actually, I don't mind the shot and Durden at the odds that the people are getting. But I got feeling when I watched things, I was thinking Gutierrez is going to win a pretty comfortable, maybe 29-28 decision. Jamall Emmers against Timur Valiev is a fight in it. I think it's in the featherweight division here. And Valiev's a guy I've been watching for a very, very, very long time. He was in my top 10 fighters that the UFC should sign in 2020 before the coronavirus hit. And I didn't think, honestly, that they'd be signing many fighters, but they've signed this guy up. A guy who's just, he doesn't really, he's very fast, let me get that out there, he can throw some nice combinations, but outside of that, nothing really stands out for Valiev, but he's very solid at just winning fights. It's hard to look good against the guy. You've seen him in the PFL. I think his last fight was at featherweight against Magomedov, if I remember off the top of my head. He's just a sound, solid fighter across the board, and he has been for a number of years. I probably knew about him for 4, maybe 5 years, maybe a bit longer than that actually. He fought Chris Gutierrez, who we were just talking about there, lost in that one, came back and beat him in the rematch, and then he's really just went on and he's won. It's not that he's been fighting all that often, he fights like once a year. Beat Jose Ali Silva via submission, Max Koga's an alright win, I suppose, and then he beat Magomedov pretty unanimously in his last fight before jumping over to the UFC here. But like I say, just a guy who can get takedowns, can get some top time, can land some decent strikes, very, very fast like I was saying, but I think this fight could play out really close, and I think that's something that I don't really like with Valiev. Yeah, it's something I don't really like, is the fact that he can fight close with fighters, but here, especially moving into the UFC, he might kind of get found out a little bit through that, because he is fighting probably a better caliber opposition, like he has fought in the past, like better than he has fought in the past, I should say. And Emmers is a guy, some people are really kind of high on Jamall Emmers. I've never really been that guy. Fought very close against Giga, but I thought he fought really stupidly. I thought you're trying to strike with a superior striker, and I don't think he did bad in that aspect, I really don't. But I thought you had a clear kind of path with your grappling, and that's something that he hasn't done in the past. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. I mean, I like the Emmers fight against Barboza. Barboza was a guy that I thought was... I still think he will be destined for the UFC in the future, but that was a good fight. Came in, the whole Julian Rosa thing kind of puts me off a little bit. He was, I think he was a big favourite in that fight, if I remember, and got blasted out there by Julian Rosa. That's never really a good look when that happens, but like I said, Rosa's really shown out to be a pretty kind of good kind of gatekeeper in the UFC, if we're being honest with you. So this one here, I'm a little bit back and forward with, because I can see if Emmers fights to his potential, could get the nod here. I'm just thinking that Valiev's going to tie him up a little bit. He might get a takedown here or there. He just might do enough. I've got him squeaking a split decision here. I'm not super confident in the spot, but I am going to take Valiev via split decision. Eric Spicer against Markus Perez is up next. I've got Markus Perez. I like him in this spot. I would like his betting line to come down a little bit. He's a guy I'm actually looking at parlaying up with another guy coming up very, very soon. When I look at this fight here, I think he's more dynamic on the feet. I think he's got more power. He's a little bit more awkward, a little bit more rangier. And Spicely's never really been known for his striking, even though it is something that has definitely come on within the last couple of years. He will throw more output. He will kind of attack you a little bit more. But when I look at this here, Spicely, I'm not sure he can get the fight to the ground. I don't think he's going to have an advantage if he gets the fight there. Perez is a black belt himself. Like I say, I love watching Markus Perez fight. And I don't know why. He's a kind of a guilty pleasure of mine that I like watching fight, whether he wins or loses. I don't know what it is, but I always kind of look forward to watching him get in there and do some kind of quirky stuff. And like, he's a guy that kind of trades wins and losses. I've kind of forgot who his wins and losses are now. Let me bring that up. But who's he beating? Yeah, so Ian Heinisch was before he came into the UFC. Then he got Eric Anders, which Eric Anders sometimes can show up and be a fairly decent fighter. Beat Botnovich, not UFC caliber. Beat Sanchez, lost to Sanchez, who can fight tough sometimes. Beat Fluffy Hernandez. I remember, I think I bet him as an underdog there, and I was so surprised that he was underdog in that fight. And then he lost to Wellington Turman, who his fighting next week, and it's actually a very, very solid fighter that you need to keep a close eye on. I think he has more. I think he's more power on the feet. I don't think that Spice is kind of going to out-volume him. I don't think he's going to take him down. I don't think if he does take him down, I don't think he's going to have any kind of longevity on the ground. I don't think he keeps him there for long periods of this fight. I just think at minus 200, I like the betting line a little bit lower, but for me, that's a pretty decent parlay piece. I like hitting numbers around about that to kind of parlay up a little bit, and my parlays are going great. The kind of saving grace at the minute is my parlays, which is a little bit crap. I want to get my straight picks better, but like I said, been a little bit up and down with that. I've got Markus Perez. I'm going to pick him via submission. I think he hurts him in the feet and then manages to find a way to get the back. When he rides out the back, he's very, very strong there. So I'm going to take Markus Perez. I'm going to take him via submission in the mid part of round number 3 there. And plus Eric Spice's been a pretty bad run of UFC losses. He's lost like 4 in a row. So in saying that, he's fighting for his job here, because 5 UFC losses in a row, never a good look. So yeah, next up we've got Ray Borg against Nathan Maness. I've got Ray Borg, but he has some kind of physical disadvantages to kind of come through here. I think that the bigger guy is obviously Nathan. The longer reach, I think he's got like a 9-inch reach on Ray Borg, which is a little bit worrying. But Ray Borg should really be beating someone like this guy in his UFC debut. I think that Nathan should actually be fighting the Dana White Contender Series. I think he would have been a great person to kind of have in there, and with his record, I think it's 11-1. I did the MMA Huddle podcast on Monday there, and when I was thinking what I said, I was like, I maybe have to go back and watch a little bit more of Nathan, because I said to him he might have been a little bit fairly easy to take down, and when you go back and watch who he's fought in the regional scene, it's nothing to really write home about, but he's went in there, stopped some takedowns, which I think he will have to do in this fight here. I think he has to kind of play the long game. We really looked amazing against Ricky Stop with Ricky Simon. But his hands looked really, really good as they have ever. But he's still got a grappling background that he can use. He can chain wrestle hard for 15 minutes, and he will look for takedowns. Now, initially, I think that Nathan might be able to pop back up, but I think once he starts to wear out a little bit, I think that Ray Borg could have some success there. So yeah, I've kind of got Ray Borg to really be clinching him up, tiring him out, getting some takedowns, getting some top position time, and kind of riding out a decision win there. And that's who I'm thinking about parlaying with Markus Perez. Somehow Ray Borg is still minus 200 here in the UK in the book that I'm looking at right now. So if I put him and Perez together, who's also minus 200, it's like plus 129. So I quite like that parlay on a card which I'm not liking too many spots. I might go and have a little shot on that, but I'm going to take Ray Borg decision. Light heavyweight, Ed Herman against the short notice opponent in Gerald Meerschaert. I've never been the best at picking Meerschaert fights. I cannot read the guy that well. I do think he's a guy who's made some improvement recently, but he's another one of these guys that kind of trades wins and losses, and obviously down at 185, he's coming up here short notice against Ed Herman, who's actually won 2 fights in a row, which is a little bit of a thing that I never expect to see in kind of 2020. But I mean, if you're looking at Gerald Meerschaert, he's a guy that likes to kind of get the fights to the ground, but his striking has definitely come on in the last few years. It showed in the Deron Win fight where he was really keeping him at distance, and Deron Win really just didn't have anything much to fire back, and really won his fight through his striking, but then really kind of set everything up with his striking to then get the submission win over Deron Win. Then came back against Ian Heinisch and got absolutely blasted out of there in the first couple of minutes, which I thought could happen. I didn't think it would happen, but Heinisch got a big win there. Now he's jumping up to 205 here against Ed Herman. Like I say, I'm kind of struggling with this one. I think I'm going to go with Ed Herman. What he's shown in his last couple of fights is that even during his whole entire kind of career, he does get taken down, but he finds a way to get back to his feet. And the guys, he plants his feet, he throws with power, got some really good low kicks, put some combination striking together. He's very hittable himself. He's right there in the pocket to be hit. So someone like Meerschaert, if he can really kind of use a range fight and use his range in this one, and I don't know what the range difference is between these two, but I think that he's the faster striker, with the more power being in the Herman side. But like I say, I picked Gerald Meerschaert fight absolutely terribly, so I am going to go with Ed Herman via another decision. He's coming off wins over, I think it was a Bragamo, wasn't it, where I thought that he was for sure going to be in the kind of the short side. I thought Bragamo was maybe going to work him a little bit, and then he came through there and cashed, I think, as a good underdog. And then before that, Patrick Cummins got him out there in the first round. So the guy's a very durable kind of light heavyweight, and I can't believe I'm picking him here to kind of win 3 in a row in 2020. So even though his last 2 fights were in 2019, I'm going to take Ed Herman. I think he wins via decision in that one there. Frankie Saenz against Jonathan Martinez. I think that Frankie Saenz is done. I think his kind of chin can be checked a little bit. I think he can be hurt a little bit. I think Martinez is fast. I think that he throws some nice sneaky knees up the middle, a really nice overhand right. I was actually looking at the under 2.5 rounds here at +1. I think it was +195 over here in the UK. And Frankie Saenz, I think his path to victory here is really going to be through his grappling. If he can establish that and keep Martinez on the ground, then I think he can win the fight possibly through that. His squat, man, he's really hard to kind of nail down, get hold of. Now, he has been taken down in the past. Sukumtath got him down, and previous opponents have as well, which is a little bit concerning because he's against a kind of pure wrestler here, where you got Frankie coming off kind of vicious knockout loss to Chito Vera. Before that, he had a couple of wins over Merab. How that guy won that fight, I have no fucking idea. I watched that a couple of times. I'm thinking, how does that guy win that fight and get the nod in that fight? Still don't know. Then he beat Henry Briones, nothing to write home about. And he is coming on to being 40 years old now. And the speed advantage on Martinez's side is there for all to see. So it's pretty obvious. Frankie Saenz has to get takedowns and keep him there, or at least put him against the cage and actually catching him with a clean shot at some part of this fight, probably in the first couple of rounds. So I'm going to take Jonathan Martinez. He's a guy that's kind of impressed me in his UFC tenure, and I was not kind of expecting to see... I was not kind of really expecting to be overly impressed when he came in, but he's kind of making improvements even though he's lost a couple of fights. The Andre Ewell fight was very, very close. I think he had an opportunity to really win that fight as well. And his wins, to be fair, to write home about, Lu Ping Wang, Li Jiaburin, not really fights to write home about or wins to write home about, but yeah, I'm going to take Jonathan Martinez here. I think he catches Frankie with a shot, and I don't think Frankie can really take too many shots nowadays. So, Jonathan Martinez, TKO round 2. Kevin Holland against Trevin Giles. I actually just watched something there where Trevin Giles said that he's not really been in camp for this fight, which is a little bit concerning. Now, I'm kind of taking that with a pinch of salt because the guy's a professional fighter. He must have been in and doing at least some reps and getting worked out a little bit here. So that was a little bit concerning, but my pick actually from the get-go was Kevin Holland. I think that he's a more dynamic striker. I think he's obviously the longer striker, but betting Kevin Holland fights is just a risky business in my opinion. I bet him twice in parlays and been sweating big time, and against not great caliber opponents. And he will look dominant in parts of the fights, but he will do something stupid. He'll be mouthing off. He'll get hit with a shot like the Di Chirico fight. I bet him in that fight, and that fight played out a lot closer than I really wanted it to. So I'm not going back to the Kevin Holland well betting wise. And the Meerschaert win was very, very close, where he could have been a little bit, I don't want to say lucky, because the judges obviously thought he won the fight. But yeah, the guy just became a black belt, decent on the ground, very long. He is a little bit easy to take down, which I'm a little bit worried about. And Trevin Giles, I think he's got a lot of advantages over Trevin in a lot of spots here, but Trevin's big and he's strong and he's powerful, so I can maybe see him getting takedowns and kind of keeping him there. But I think Kevin will work from his back, find a way to get back to his feet, and then I think he can land the more output on the feet. Yeah, Trevin Giles, I mean, he went... I thought that fight with James Krause, and all respect to James Krause, because he stepped on there on 24 hours notice, and put on a hell of a fight, took that fight to a split against a far bigger guy, ultimately just kind of faded out with the strength with Giles and not really being in fight shape. I'm going to take Kevin Holland. I think he could catch... I mean, if Kevin Holland comes in like he did the last time against Fluffy Hernandez, then Trevin Giles could have problems here, because he came out and ran through Fluffy in a manner. He just like ran straight through him in no time at all. But then it's Kevin Holland. Sometimes you don't know what kind of guy's going to turn up here. I'm going to take him to win this fight. I think he will win. I'm actually going to pick him via sub. I think that he's got an opportunity to win via submission here. So Kevin Holland for the win for me there. A rematch, Lando Vannata against Bobby Green. I'm picking Bobby Green. These two fought a couple of years back where it went to a split draw, where Lando, I think, got a point deduction in that one there. But he started off the fight really well. I think he got some takedowns in that fight where... let me see, let me bring up that fight. Somebody when I look at, because I had some points of that. Yeah, so he did. He got 4 takedowns. I remember that. I watched it the other night there, but I thought I was thinking of a different fight there. And both guys had a lot of output. Vannata has always been a kind of strong starter, but Bobby Green's a guy that's just hard to look good against. He can get a lot of output himself. He's kind of light on his feet. He can be taken down. I mean, I think Clay Guida got him down a couple of times. He reversed position on Clay. He got Clay down a few times. But he's a guy that he can have a lot of output, but he fights very, very close. And you look at his record, it's not flattering. I mean, loss, draw, win, loss, win. Saying that, Barboza, Pori, Rashid Magomedov, they're good fighters, or they were good fighters at the time, especially when Magomedov was in the UFC. He was a hard guy to kind of look good against. Came back with a win over Eric Koch. Lost very close fights, I think, to Drakkar Klose. I thought that fight played out a lot closer. The Trinaldo fight, I actually thought he kind of won that fight. Low-key won that fight. So I felt for him a little bit there. He was in Brazil, and Trinaldo is a kind of unheralded hero in that part of the world there. And then he came back against Clay Guida, where he really just outboxed him and popped his head back numerous times and mixed in with some grappling there. Like I say, I'm more on the Bobby Green side here. Lando is obviously a wrestler. He comes from that background, and occasionally you will kind of see him use that. But he's a guy that predominantly likes to be on the feet, but he can be broken down. He's very, very hittable. I mean, Mark Diakese absolutely ripped through him with leg kicks, really mixed up with takedowns. Medeiros, to me, even though I bet Lando in that spot, I think I got him at plus 150. To me, Yancey just did not look in that fight. I didn't like what I seen in the interviews before the fight. It looked like he maybe taking a step back from it, and Lando just kind of capitalised on that. But his UFC wins against Yancey, which, credible win. And then you've got Marcus Mariano, not a credible win in my opinion. John McDessie was 2016, which is, you can call credible. That was a beautiful knockout. I just think that Bobby Green here is just going to outwork him a little bit, but I think it is going to be very, very close. So I've got Bobby Green via split decision in that one there. Vicente Luque against Randy Brown. Good fight. I've really enjoyed seeing the kind of progression of Randy Brown, and especially in his last 2 fights. I think he's really looked half decent in his last 2 fights, where he knocked out Barberena, who's a tough guy to knock out. You've seen he can go tooth and nail with people. He did it with Vicente Luque, where they were going back and forward for 14 minutes, 30 seconds of that fight. Then Vicente managed to catch him with a beautiful shot, caught a couple of knees to the chin, did the old Brian, and he was kind of looking at the stars pretty much after that. Vicente Luque, to me, is one of my favourite fighters to watch. I think he's came along a long way since the Ultimate Fighter, where he was predominantly, I think, a grappler, but his boxing skills are amazing, really, really good. He is a little bit hittable, which is something that I don't like. Let me just bring up the stats here on Vicente Luque, because he gets hit a ton. He can obviously land some killer blows himself, but he when you look at like how people can really run up the kind of striking stats here, going off Nico Price, that was a very close fight, back and forward there. Nico made some big improvements, I thought, in that fight, and looked really, really good, and moved up a caliber fighting someone like Luque. But 129 strikes landed. Stephen Thompson 138, Mike Perry landed 87. Mike Perry was a little bit unlucky in that fight, in my opinion. Brian Barberena, 169. Julian Turner in a one-round fight landed 31. So you can land on Vicente Luque. His defense is a little bit shoddy, but he counters very well. You have to be careful with the shots that you throw, because if you give him the slightest opportunity, he's got a lot of power, he can knock you out with that. Obviously, the guy's a black belt. But when you jump over to Randy Brown, I mean, what happened in Brazil with Warley Alves, I thought he played that beautifully. He kind of just let Warley really establish himself by getting some takedowns, but then really worked off his back and caught a beautiful triangle there and got him out there in the second round. And then the Barberena fight, he was using that length, he was popping Barberena's head back and then managed to catch that killer blow in the third round where he completely outstruck him in that fight. And like I say, he's looked really good. I've watched some interviews, he sounds in good spirits. He sounds like he's ready to make that jump up into this kind of calibre opposition. I'm just not kind of too sure about it a little bit. Now, the betting line to me, I was thinking about where would I like to bet Vicente Luque, because I would like to bet him because I think he's got some advantages in this one. I think he has more output. I think he is better on the feet. I think he's better in most spots, but 175, minus 175, I would like that below minus 150 if possible. I'm seeing some people saying betting the house on Vicente Luque. I'm not one of those people personally. If you got Randy Brown, I think it was plus 175 at one point. That's decent. I don't know where the line's kind of going to finish. This might be round about where it is now. I was thinking about picking Randy Brown, but my gut feeling is just telling me Luque, and I kind of have to stick via my gut feeling. So Vicente Luque, I think this fight could be a lot closer than what it could have been a year ago. I think Vicente Luque would maybe run through someone like Randy Brown, but Randy Brown to me has made some big improvements. He's starting to really kind of come into his stride in the UFC, and I'm looking forward to seeing if he can make that step up against a fringe top 15 guy, because that's what Vicente Luque absolutely is. But I'm going to take Luque. I actually think that he stops Randy Brown in the third round, but it could have all the trappings of being a very, very close fight. Jojo Calderwood against Jennifer Maia's up next. I'm picking Jojo, but I think it's obviously a big risky fight. She had the title shot. I think Valentina, from what everybody's saying, that she's recovering from an injury that pulled her out of the fight against Joanne. Joanne, they were saying that they were trying to make that fight for September, and Joanne was still training through all this coronavirus. She's obviously dating John Wood, the guy who runs kind of Syndicate MMA, so they were probably in and out of that gym, and I think they moved to a new part as well. So yeah, so she's been getting ready for a fight. So I like the fact that she's jumped in here on a week's notice, to say the least. And against Jennifer Maia, I think she's got some advantages. Jennifer, I thought, was just a little bit, the footwork of Chikagian and just the range of Chikagian, she really kind of struggled against last time out. But Joanne's not that type of person to really set range. She likes to get in a kind of phone booth, get into the clinch, throw knees, throw elbows. It's something she's always loved to do. But I think she's got really good time takedowns now. I think she's got that in her back pocket she needs to use. And Maia, to her credit, she can be taken down. She can also take people down. I've seen that as well. She's more of a kind of counter striker, I think. And she could get someone like Joanne Calderwood, who, I mean, she barrels forward sometimes and she does have her head a little bit high and she can get hit with shots. And someone like Maia could absolutely pop off. She's not a single shot person either. She throws combinations when she's got the opportunity to throw those strikes. But I think that Jojo's just going to be a little bit quicker. I think she's got more output. I think she's going to mix it up. I think she will get takedowns. And I see the betting lines went down to minus 150. And I'm trying not to let my Scottish bias kind of run through me here. Minus 145 actually. So the money's coming in Maia. Geez, if that gets below minus 135 here in the UK, to me, I'm probably going to have to look at maybe betting Joanne Calderwood. I think that she mixes it up really well here. I think obviously the short notice nature of the fight isn't great, but I'm going to take her to win via decision. But I've seen some people confident in Maia, and I'm not saying you're on the bad side, but if you see that, you've got at least a decent value. You're probably getting, well, she was minus 175 at one point, so you could have got like plus 160 or so. That's not too bad at all. Plus 150, I should say. But yeah, come on, Scotland. Come on, Jojo. Big fight, obviously, because if she wins this, she pretty much cements herself as being the #1 contender. With Valentina being out and people like Calvillo winning in that division, she kind of probably has to keep on fighting. So ballsy fight in her, ballsy stance on her part, taking the fight. I've got her to win via decision there. And the main event of the night, we've got Derek Brunson against Edmen Shabazyan. I've been, like, for the last week, I've been thinking about this fight, and people are all in on Edmen Shabazyan, and I can see why. You watch his fights, and to be fair, there's not a hell of a lot out there. There's 4 or 5 fights, but he starches people so quickly. I'm still a little bit hesitant to really, the golden boy, to hail him as the golden boy, but it's kind of getting harder and harder to not look at this young man and be uber impressed. And he's got a big jump up here to a guy who's fought big guys in that division for many, many years. Your Romeros, your Machidas, your Anderson Silvas, your Robert Whitakers. He's fought champions, he's fought legends, and he's awkward to fight. When he decides he wants to fight the way that he should, sometimes he fights so stupid. He comes forward, flailing shots, leaving his chin wide open, there to be hit. But when he puts all together, he's a tough, dangerous guy. And initially I was thinking, this, especially over 3 rounds, and not knowing that much about Edmen coming out of the second and third round, the only kind of couple of times we've seen that, the Darren Stewart fight, he struggled in that fight. He looked a shell of the fighter that he is now. But you see, what you see with him now is a confident, composed killer in there, and he picks his shots beautifully. That knockout of Brad Tavares is absolutely beautiful. The way he hit that high kick, Tavares never seen it coming. And that's confidence that does that. Confidence and extreme technique. You don't have people like Ronda Rousey kind of pushing you this quick or this far, and her saying things that this guy could be a champion. Now, the guy's 23 years old, so I'm still ready to see more of him. But if Derek Brunson comes out here and fights the way he does, then I think he's just going to get let up by someone like Edmond. I think he's going to pick his shots well. Derek's rebounded really well in his last couple of wins, in my opinion. Something he had to do, because those losses to Jacare, to Izzy, the Izzy fight, I thought he looked as worse as he ever has. And Izzy was playing with him at points of that fight, and at the end of that first round there. Bounce back against Elias, bounce back against Ian Heinisch, good solid wins, and now he's got this young up and comer who's ready to kind of take his spot in higher up in the rankings here. I was thinking Derek Brunson over the weekend, but I just think this kid's going to catch him with something. I do. I think that his confidence is through the roof, and if Brunson, if he gets off some initial shots very early on in the fight, I think that Brunson's going to start panicking and coming forward, chin in the air, flailing shots, and I think that Edmund's just going to pick a shot that's going to put him down. So I'm going to go a first round knockout for Edmen Shabazyan, and we'll look to see where he kind of moves forward after that. So I'm going to pick Edmund for the win in the main event there. So that's my picks there for UFC Fight Night, Shahbazyan against Brunson. Thank you to everybody in the chat there. Thank you to everybody that's watched. And thank you to everybody that's given me a thumbs up. If there's any thumbs up, late thumbs up that you'd like to throw in there, it'd be much appreciated. Like I said, I'm going to schedule a time on Sunday night where I will put the Dana White Contender Series fights. I'm actually really looking forward to going and watching some of these guys fight. Some new guys coming to the UFC, because the Contender Series, in my opinion, has been a great thing the last couple of years. We've had a lot of great fighters coming through. I mean, Sean O'Malley, I could go on. I could go absolutely on for ages regarding the Dana White Contender Series. But that will be out Sunday night, because they fight obviously on Tuesday, and then I will have my picks out next week again. So until next week, guys, until the end of the weekend, all the very best. Enjoy the card when it comes around this Saturday night. Take care, all the best, and again, enjoy the fights.